Clint, yesterday I talked with um, Jimmy Stein, and we were discussing Bill O'Brien interviewing for the Patriots. And we've seen that for a long time. Even Chris Lowe subtweeted and was like, yeah, that's to be expected. This is probably the likely situation for Bill O'Brien. When we look to potential offensive coordinators to replace Bill O'Brien, we were talking pre-show, it seems like it's a little bit more difficult to put our finger on the pulse of the offensive coordinator position. There's a lot of names out there that people want to throw that are fun to talk about. In your perspective and kind of wrapping your head around this, and we've all had time to do it, who are some realistic names that jump to mind when we look to our potential replacement for Bill O'Brien?
Man, there's so many potential names, but with the defensive coordinator, you kind of already had an idea of the direction that it could go. Like Schumann made a lot of sense. Jeremy Pruitt made a lot of sense. The fact that, in most cases, Jim Leonard wouldn't have made sense, but the fact that he had the falling out with, Wisconsin, and he was available and he's one of the best defensive coordinators in college football, that was obviously a name that a lot of people connected. You've got guys like Todd, Grantham, who has been a defensive coordinator in the SEC. Don't really think that he's going to be the guy, but you see all these names and they just all make sense. Offensive coordinator is a lot more difficult, right? I mean, you're already seeing a lot of the names that were popping up are really being checked off the list. Like, a guy like Kendall Briles might have been brought up. A guy like Garrett Riley, a guy like Cliff Kingsbury, who's now in Thailand, living it up, with his $20 million and his beautiful girlfriend or wife or whatever she is, like he's probably not going to be available. Tom Herman would be a name that would have gotten brought up, but he's at FAU. So you start trying to figure out, okay, which direction could they go? And I think Dan Mullen is a possibility. I think, a Jeff Lebby, you got Joe Brady, you got Casey Woods, the offensive coordinator at SMU. Brian Johnson is, the quarterback's coach for the Philadelphia Eagles. He's done some great work with Jalen Hurts. There's some familiarity there as far as, if you're looking at Mullen, Brian Johnson might be a possibility on that front. So I think there are a lot of different names. It's just really hard to pinpoint or peg which direction they'll go on that front compared to defense coordinator, which seems to be heading in just a couple of directions.
Here with Clint Lamb of Bama Insider. Now, I think it's important to note that Alabama, if Bill O'Brien, when he does take the leap to wherever he's going to go, probably in the NFL, it's important for people to know two things. Bill O'Brien works with the quarterbacks. So you have to think from an offensive coordinator perspective, someone that's got to come in, probably going to work with the quarterbacks. We see Steve Sarkisian, he worked with the quarterbacks, and then Bill O'Brien. So we've seen kind of that in play. But another name that Alabama also just recently lost in the quarterback room is Alex Mortensen. And he was kind of a behind the scenes type guy for that quarterback room, but was kind of like the quarterback magician. A lot of people have a lot of respect for him. And I believe that he's going to UAB to be an assistant coach. So you're losing some firepower in that regard. So I think when you look to offensive coordinators, you have to also have someone that's going to be able to develop the quarterbacks. And Clinton, you and I just recently talked about the quarterback room and the guys returning and that it's an open battle for that position. So I think when you look to offensive coordinators, you have to also pair that with somebody who does have quarterback experience. Would you agree with that assessment, being that it's pretty much obvious that Bill O'Brien working with the quarterbacks and Steve Sarkisian before that also worked with the quarterbacks?
Absolutely. I think that's absolutely huge. And Dan Mullen certainly has experience and is kind of known for being a good quarterback developer. Jeff Lebby, the same way. Joe Brady did some good work, throughout his career. Alex Atkins, the offensive coordinator for Florida State. Now, they're an up-and-coming program. I don't know if Atkins would be willing to leave Florida State, but that would be a guy that I would target if I was Alabama, if it were me. I'm not Nick Saban, and he's still kind of an up-and-comer, so I'm not sure that would work out. But I think the work that he's done with Jordan Travis this year was simply outstanding. You saw a lot of growth and development. He was a good running quarterback, but just the ability to throw the football consistently. If you want a guy who can come in and maybe get the most out of a Jalen Milroe style of quarterback, I think a guy like Atkins would certainly be somebody that I would look at. Brian Johnson, he is the quarterback's coach with the Philadelphia Eagles, like I said, and he's done some great work with Jalen Hurts. So that would be another potential name. But I do think it is very important because in college football nowadays, that I think Alabama wants to get back to running the football with more consistency and with more authority. But at the same time, with the way that the game is structured now, it's built around quarterback, that position. Yes. And so you've got to bring in a guy who can develop that and get the most out of that, position group or position room. And I think that there are plenty of possibilities out there. That's a big reason why a lot of people were big, Alabama fans were big on bringing in Dan Enos, because he did some great work with
Yep.
Leah Tungavaloa. Unfortunately, he's going to be moving on and will be, I think, going to Arkansas, if I'm not mistaken, to replace Kendall Briles. I think that was the last report. I don't know if that's true or accurate or how far along that is. But yeah, I definitely think developing quarterbacks is a very important factor in all this.
Hey, what's good, fam? It's Kyle Henderson. Thank you very much for watching this video. Check out our other related content right here on Bama Insider. Be sure and like and subscribe, inching closer to 100,000 subscribers right here on Bama Insider.